Oh, man. Someone get him a cop truck.
Offense number 76.
That is, boy, that makes my day,
There
man.
is nothing worse knowing that you got nothing left in the tank. You're running on E.
I know he was like, damn, is that me? Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Evan Giddings in for Mess Time. That's Daryl the Guru Johnson with you here, taking up until 2 o'clock. And we're talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly from the NFC Championship game. I think, look, to me, obviously, the ability to come back, to dig yourself out of the hole, that's a good part about that game. What was bad for McGee was looking at, the effort in the trenches. And we heard Brian Baldinger talk about the idea of personnel versus scheme, coaching versus players. And I've kind of been with him most of the season that I feel like this is a team that defensively, for whatever reason, just has not played up to the star potential that's littered around the roster. And at some point, coaching can only go so far. I know that Wilkes is not D'Amico. I know that he's not Robert Saleh. Although in the Green Bay game, they got 2 turnovers in the second half, didn't allow a point in the fourth quarter, allowed 7 points in the second half to the Lions. So there's adjustments being made. But again, you talked about this, the offense starting flat. It's also that the defense has, in addition to the offense, also been starting flat. Like you haven't had either side of the ball that's come out of the gate swinging.
Man, and Evan, I'm with you. I hear you. But again, just the way I was raised and brought up and my love for sports, I always thought that the one thing you couldn't do is blame all the players. So when a unit together collectively, not taking 2 steps back, look like they taking 5 steps back, I just think it's fair to question the scheme. And that call we took right before break, not that he is the next Bill Walsh, but even he was wondering, where do we put this, or where do we start the mystery at? And to me, I always thought it was with the coaching. But to hear Baldy say it's not the scheme, Bonte's video of Young, I'm going to call him Mr. Young because he wasn't chasing nobody, like that's a will and want to. And kudos, because I've been calling out Steiny too, all of us, not in a negative way, but just pointing out the facts that Bosa hadn't done anything, and he had 2 sacks that game. So got to give him his kudos. But my thing is, and I mean this, Evan, I know today ain't the preview show. You do what you did defensively in regard to the start, the last 2 weeks in Vegas against Andy and Pat, it might be over. Like, I'm going to leave that. That's how serious this is if you want to win. And you talked about it, Evan. The Niners were 5-0 in Super Bowls, and they're on a losing streak. You can't be playing around. And all I say to that, and why my voice is getting higher, is it's a must that they get in the lab, and not just get in the lab, Evan, but come up with a concoction that can remedy these slow starts.
Well, and if we're going to call people out, I don't just want to look at the 2 defensive ends. I mean, a big place that you struggle if you're giving up gashing runs and you're not getting contact on the ball carrier, your defensive tackles.
Oh, okay. All right.
Like your interior defensive linemen have been getting muscled around each of the last 2 games now, but specifically in the first half against Detroit. I mean, I'm sitting there from the press box looking down Eric Armstead, who's supposed to be a run stopper. I know that he's been dealing with injury for the latter half of the regular season, came back for the postseason. He doesn't look like the same player. I see 6'7", nearly 300 pounds getting moved around by double teams, by guards. Eric Armstead has not been very good. Javon Hargrave.
That is the one.
He's more of a pass rushing D-tackle.
But they got him out there on rundowns, like he can do both.
But it wasn't just them. Armstead, Hargrave, Javon Kinlaw is getting muscled around.
99.
Sebastian Joseph Day, who was a late signing to provide some depth at that spot, former Charger, he's getting rocked. I saw Sebastian Joseph Day on it was one of Montgomery's 10-yard runs.
Where he got untouched in the end.
But just got pushed backwards by a double team. And Montgomery, again, it's like up the middle, just a simple gut run right through the chute, and he's not getting touched for 5 or 6 yards. That can't happen. I don't care if it's a 5-man front. if it's a 4-man front, if it's a 3-man front. Your linebackers can't do their job if the defensive line doesn't do theirs. And as great as Fred Warner is, although he has been missing more tackles this season quietly than he has, I think, in years past, even if Drake Greenlaw is trying to get downhill and thump somebody, they can't do their job if the defensive line doesn't do theirs. And we talked about it, the fact that they spend so much money at those positions, but it's not just Bosa, it's not just Young, it's also Armstead who makes a boatload of cash. It's Hargrave who they just throw $80+ million at in free agency. It's those guys and the rotation players that they've brought in that have not done what we've seen them do in years past and even at the beginning of the season. So the defensive line, all of them, you got to call them out, I think.
And you just did. And I'll tell you what, tap into your Patty LaBelle, your inner Patty LaBelle. Evan, they need a new attitude. And whatever's going on right now was not good enough. You are right. And I'm going to just go back to this. You got me thinking about that first half, the way that Detroit just ran the ball where it looked like Alabama versus Rutgers. That's what makes this, if I'm a Lion fan, real quick, Evan, hurt more is when you watch it on film, forget the 8 or 7 yards or the 9 yards. I believe it was the Gibbs run to where he just ski-skirted everybody and walked in the end zone. And I'm like, I am not used to seeing this. My point is, Evan, if I'm a Lion player, that's what hurts most is because I don't think the Niners fixed that. It was just the Lions went away, flea flicker, trying to get cute, but the highlights, and that cost you. But I can't wait, man. I know we got, 12 days? How many days for a Super Bowl? February 11th? Oh, I'll let you do it. About
12?
Yeah, 12. They can go. But we'll find out to see if they made some adjustments.
You think that's why, we just saw the news that the offensive coordinator for the Lions, Ben Johnson, has decided to not take a job. You think that game has anything to do with it?
Well, the way it was reported, it was his.
Because it looked like he was going to have 6 different offers at halftime.
But I understand the Commanders, but the Seattle's a damn good job. So if he said, I want to stay here, that's odd. Again, you got stuff to work with, but I would have been on the first thing to Seattle if they wanted me. I get the Commanders bypassing that, but now Ben Johnson, they got too cute. He did, and so did the coach.
I agree.
And Dan
Which is
Gamble.
weird because you don't associate, at least I haven't associated the Lions with being a cutesy team. I know they got good position players or skill position players, but that's a physical football team, and I thought they went away both in the decision-making department, but also in the play calling. I thought they went away from who they were.
I got to be careful here because I mentioned high school. Shout out James Logan Colts and you playing college baseball. Evan, when you get dominated in the trenches, as you just spoke about, the way that Detroit dominated the Niners, I'm going to be careful here. Evan, it starts to embark on manhood. It starts to embark on pride. Like, you are right. 300 pounds getting – Detroit was like – that was so – if I'm a Niner fan, nerve-rattling because it ain't just, okay, we were there, tip the cap. It was one of those. They were imposing their will. And now I'm just like, okay, you got past it, you won it, great. But are you telling me Pacheco and Kansas City are not just foaming at the mouth to get an opportunity? And maybe it won't be 8 yards a pop, Evan. Maybe it'll be 6, and then you get hit with a play-action pass from the best to ever do it with Mahomes. But I'm telling you, if I'm a Niner fan, as I'm rejoicing in this euphoria of advancing to the Super Bowl, Evan, there are some things on the to-do list that need to be done.
Yeah, they ran the ball 32 times against Baltimore. It could be a similar type of number against San Francisco in the Super Bowl. I'm not so sure. From the 707, the Comcast Business Text line seems to think that they're missing Talanoa Hufanga, who, of course, the All-Pro tore his ACL. I understand
they've been without
it,
him
but
for how long?
I was going to say, they've been able to make do without him. That doesn't mean he's not a damn good player.
And they don't miss him. They miss him.
But Talanoa Hufanga doesn't play defensive line.
Oh man,
like he doesn't have 4 fingers in the dirt.
And what would he look like if this D line was playing this porous?
I think he'd help with the run defense because he can get downhill with the best of them, and he likes to thump. But him playing in the box, or whether it's Tashawn Gibson in the box, or Jair Brown, or Logan Ryan, who we saw at points throughout the last 2 playoff games. It didn't matter how many guys you had in the box. Detroit was still running the football in the first half up and down the field.
Yeah, and this from Dirt on the First NorCal Credit Union, Evan. Again, nobody on this chat, the text line. You and I, Spadoni, know more football than Brian Baldinger. And what he said resonated with me to where he's not ready to blame Wilkes, but Evan the fan is short for fanatic. It's just kind of funny. And I'm not saying dirt is wrong, because I think that's where I would point my finger. But right now, it's just kind of interesting that everybody will not blame the players themselves. You laid it out just a few minutes ago about what you saw from everybody on the D-line. But it's kind of funny. The average Bear, talking about the fans, feel like Wilkes is at fault here for this decline in play by the D-line in these last 2 playoff games.
Well, speaking of Bears, the small Bear Nick Bosa did show up. I mean, he made a couple of big game-changing plays, and I'm not just talking about the sacks, but also creating pressure on Jared Goff. Again, if there's a way to disrupt what the Lions want to do in the passing game, you want to make sure that you're in Jared Goff's face. You want to make sure you're getting pressure and move him off his spot, because exactly, on that 4th and 2, even though the pass should have been caught by Josh Reynolds, I'm talking about the first one out of the half, he also had pressure. He had to slide left, and Jared Goff can become inaccurate when he starts to move. When you saw him just sitting in the pocket of the first half, like that 3rd and 18 on the drive before the half, when he just ripped it over the middle of the Amon-Ra, that was a play. It was just sitting back there. I mean, he was comfortable. He was a mannequin. Wow, and finally, you got that mannequin off his spot in the second half.
Yeah, and that pass that you speak of, that was born out of panic. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Bosa failed, but you're right, Evan. It should have been caught, but it was born out of panic and like, oh, man, I'm just so happy to get this one off. But again, that's my bad, Evan, is the fact that the slow starts offensively. I get the defense, but offensively, this can't continue. Or, I mean, I don't want to say it, but we can. This would be the 3rd straight Super Bowl loss for the Niners, and nobody wants that.
No, and that would officially be a losing streak, which we do not want to see. 888-957-9570 is the number. Evan in for Steiny. He's going to be back tomorrow. Of course, got the hip surgery last week, so appreciate him. Let me fill in for him.
We see a different Steiny, you think?
What do you think?
Did they do something when they went in working on that hip?
I love the guy.
We're going to give him some more euphoria. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if the morphine or whatever, the painkillers he's been on, the antibodies, I don't know if that's brought a different Steinmetz.
Yeah.
This is why I'm such a loser. Do I know how to milk a cow? No. Have I ever milked a cow? No. But you put a cow in front of me and it's ready, I could milk it.
That's the Steiny I want to hear from tomorrow.
Right.
And that would not be a changed man.
Ooh, I love you. I love you.
Now, that might be a changed man. That might be a different Steiny we haven't heard from. Let's go out to Flea in Oakland. Wants to talk about the defensive line. What's going on, Flea? You're on 95.7 The Game.
Good morning, guys. This is what I want to say, man. Chase Young. Hopefully they bench Chase Young. One.
Wow.
Hopefully we got somebody that's up there that's hungry, that just want to get to the quarterback. Armstead, man, I hope we win it. Let me slow down. I hope we win the Super Bowl despite our defense. That's number one. Number two, Armstead, hopefully next year after this season, he gone. Hargrave, hopefully he gone. Chase Young, hopefully gone.
Damn.
Kinlaw, hopefully he gone. It's not, and we need to give more praise to Purdy, because after that game, Shanahan said we would not won that game without Brock Purdy. And everything we talked about today about this defense, we should say kudos to Debo.
Wow.
Kudos to Ayuk for that catch. Kudos to the one defensive guy that got the fumble. But outside of that, all the offensive players, our defense is trash. Hopefully we win a Super Bowl despite that. And hopefully they have one good game that the defense step up. And I don't care what happened if we win a game. After this season over, let's get rid of them guys.
Free, before you go, I got to ask you this, Free. You're talking about arguably one of the top 3 defenses the last 2 years. I thought it was the best coming into this season. You're talking about a major overhaul, man. When did you feel this way? Like, how did you get to this point?
Okay, let me say this to you real quick. When we had a choice between Buckner and Armstead, who did we want?
Oh, I got you there, man. Wow. Buckner.
We wanted Buckner.
Wow.
Okay, when we got Chase Young, we knew he had problems in Washington, and he had attitude problems. He came to the Niners kind of tentative a little bit, didn't want to ruffle no feathers. But me and my brother watched the game film. Do you know he gave up on a couple plays?
Bonte sent me a video. I watched one. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, Kinlaw. When he came through the line on Kinlaw turned around and did not run. We talking about effort and defense. Let me say this real quick, for all the listeners listening. Defense is effort. It's not about you can be 310 pounds, but if you move your feet fast enough and you know there's an open gap, you seen all them gaps that was open?
Yeah.
All thing you got to do, I don't care if you got to grab a dude by his kneecap and spin him around. Get to your gap. We all played football as young. I'm talking about this is as young kids. We all played football. So we ain't going to act like we goofy in the brain. We know if there's an open gap and we on defense, it's between the linebacker or the defensive line to get to that gap, especially if it's a run play.
Wow.
Thanks, Philippe.
I'm going to go low Neal.
Cap off.
Yeah, they call it gap integrity, Evan. Yeah. Dude, wow. This dude wanted the whole defense.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if we can fire the entire team.
Right.
I don't know if we can fire the whole team.
I want him going, but he's irate, man.
He is. I was irate watching the first half.
I'm going to tell him this, Evan, no doubt.
Yeah.
But to think, he said this, hopefully we can win the Super Bowl. Evan, a lot of times it ain't done like that. Like, my point is, you need a Herculean effort from this defense to help the offense if you're going to tame Kansas City and win this game, man.
Obviously, you need a good defense,
right.
Borderline great defense sometimes to win Super Bowls. There's no doubt. You need guys who can make plays in big spots at big times. That's why you pay the money that you do to the guys on the defense side of the ball. You take a look at the last few Super Bowls, though, Goo. I mean, you probably got to go back to 18? That 13 to 10 to 6 game with the Rams and the Patriots.
Yeah, no
the
doubt.
last time there was a defensively driven Super Bowl, I mean, I was just out of college. Like, you need a defense. It's 100%.
Okay.
In 2019 when they lost to the Chiefs, you had a better defense than you do now.
3rd and 15.
You still lost the game.
Up. Yeah.
It wasn't like the Chiefs were a team that had the defense they do now.
That was Tyreek Hill version.
It was offense first. You look last year, what happened in the Super Bowl. That was a shootout.
It was.
And Philly had a much better defense than they do this year. We were talking about them being one of the better defenses because of all the sacks they were racking up. They got to Mahomes, and they still couldn't get him to the ground, even on a sprained ankle. On one wheel.
We were at Willards.
You need a good defense. There's no doubt about that. You can't just be out there with guys that don't know where they're going. But, and this is where I do have some hope for the Niners, is that they are more of an offense-first football team this season than in years past, and that's where I give them more of a chance. I understand the defense has been shoddy at best, right?
Be careful.
Better be careful. It's been shoddy.
Don't talk about that.
Thank you, Jim. It's been shoddy. But the offense has been what's bailed them out the last 2 games. The defense made some great plays. Dre Greenlaw, a couple of picks in the divisional round. But the offense has been the heart and soul behind this team.
That gap has gotten bigger, wider on the biggest stage. You are correct. They saved them, Evan. They saved the offense, saved the defense and the season.
And you also did make the choice, and I've seen this on the Comcast Business text line of the YouTube chat, you did make a choice to go out and get the big boy, right? You made the splash. You went on and got Hargrave instead of spending that money. 925, major defensive differences for last year. 2 Samson Ebukam. Also Charles Omenihu, who unfortunately won't be playing the Super Bowl.
I was just about to say.
Because he tore his ACL for the Chiefs in the AFC Championship. But you sacrificed depth and experience for big-name players and for cash-driven players. That was a decision that we thought was paying off midway through the year because Hargrave was getting home, the other guys along the defensive line were getting home. But now, even after going out and trading for a former top overall pick in Chase Young, you're starting to see that maybe they're not as deep on the defensive line as we thought they were, and they're getting muscled around.